So, not many of you were around when we did the first transition update, so I included some of those slides really quickly. So hang on a second. I need to get out of this because it's going to keep saying everything I say. Hang on a second. For some reason. Okay, here we go. All right, so now it's not putting those up. Perfect. So this is just to kind of give you an overview of what all's been happening with respect to the transition. Through Presbytery, we had this new Matrix Consulting, which is a group that brought us that congregational assessment tool, as well as a process, right, where we were exploring canoeing through the mountains, which some of you have read and gone through during session. And anyway, so that's kind of what the process has been over the last year. The congregational assessment tool, we invited 250 persons. We had 101, which by their yardsticks and measurements was really, really good. And you know, they say anything more than, I think they said 30% or something like that, was really, really good. The vital signs report is available if anybody wants to see it. It's available in the office, but I did want to talk a little bit about what it says on a sort of the good, the bad, the ugly. There are a few things real quick to talk about. The conflict that came out of it was really largely COVID related, as to are we wearing masks? Are we not wearing masks? Should we be following CDC? What should we be doing? And I think that as we move from a pandemic to this endemic state that we're in, we're all kind of doing what we're comfortable with at the same time, what is safe where we are. You know, I think that there's less of that conflict. We've worked through some of that too, with the leadership of Nancy Reinhardt as our moderator for the session. You know, other things that bounce out of the assessment tool, that our worship services are exceptional in both quality and spiritual content, that our church does a good job in supporting persons in ministry, meaning you know, your own ministry, that are making a difference, whether you're doing the make a dress, or you're volunteering, or other work that we're doing. We all support each other. And that our church prepares members for ministry by helping them discern their own gifts. We talked about that a little bit with respect to Realm and knowing what those are in the assessment tool that Eli did just a couple of weeks ago, which is fantastic. So I thought this was interesting. As members, we look to the future. These were the top 4 goals that came out of that. One is to kind of make those necessary changes to attract young families. Great to see younger families here today. To develop and implement comprehensive strategy to reach new people, incorporate them into our church life. So, you know, not just be here, but be involved and bring them into the church life in what we do. Create more opportunities for people to form meaningful relationships, maybe smaller groups or nurtured friendships. I think we need to start some of that all over again. We need to get back to having maybe the men's group, you know, the men's lunch. Other groups are, you know, beginning to get going all over again, and develop ministries that work towards healing those broken life circumstances. And I think that largely, again, was a COVID-related concern that bubbled up, but gave us a goal. So in comparison to other churches, 3 goals that were unusually strong for us relative to others were these here: to work and renew to create those more opportunities and to strengthen management support of persons, various ministries. Against, like I said, we are supportive, but we scored exceptionally high in that relative to other churches. So that I think this is where we all pat ourselves on the back and say, we're doing a good job here. So where are we today? Well, we've hired an interim pastor, and Bill starts in 3 weeks. That's exciting. Bill has 2 questions for all of us that I think we can in turn spread that news to others. And that is really, what would you like Bill to know about us and what we do? And what questions do you have for Bill? And I think those discerning questions will give him a sort of out of the blocks perspective of where he goes and where we go together. And as far as where we are with the rest of the process, we're going to continue to use those results of the congregational assessment tool that we've been doing with leadership. We've also going to use those to begin to do some of that demographic data and put together a real mission study that'll then go in towards putting together a pastoral nominating committee, which is kind of next steps, right? So what's next? We welcome Bill and Jackie. Jackie's recovering from knee surgery, and Bill will be here, like I said, in a few weeks. He has family in the area, and then their apartment's not ready until the middle of June for him to kind of be here. Again, complete that new matrix work with Presbytery. That really doesn't wrap up. We've got our last session as a team with our liaison person this coming week. And then there's a group meeting here of amongst all of the churches in the Carlisle Presbytery coming up in June. And then, at that point, I think we begin the forming of a pastoral nominating committee. We'll have to seek approval from Presbytery to get there. Honestly, I think that's probably a months-long process, with back and forth. I'm going to say that's probably 4 to 6 months. Is that about right, Ed? Getting that going as a forming one and getting approval and all of that goes. Yeah, it always takes longer than what you expect. And I'm always impatient, so I always try to make it not as long. So I have pushed so hard on so many fronts with Presbytery. But anyway, so, and a couple of numbers just to kind of see. I looked at the denomination site just yesterday. There are currently 1871 seeking a call. There are currently 675 positions in the system. So that's actually a little bit different than it was in January. That number was almost the other way around, I think. We were top heavy the wrong way. As one of the candidates that we looked at said, there were an avalanche of myths. So myth is the congregational form, right? The pith, that's the pastor form, but where they meet, that's where a call comes from. So I'm sorry, go ahead, Ed.
The 1,871 seeking a call, is that nationwide?
That is a nationwide number.
And positions in the system, those are openings?
Correct. Yeah, but that could be anything. That could be an associate role. That
Could be associate, could be interim, could be
a
youth person.
Correct.
800 females, and I guess that doesn't matter how many male or female.
Well, the trends are better, is what I'm told. That the women are narrowing the gap, if you will. That trend is an improving one. The one that's not improving in our denomination, and I think we all know, is a racial bias. And I mean, I could have put those numbers up too, but I chose not to. But you know, I just because I'm not sure it's one that gets us anywhere today. It's one that we all need to work on as a denomination. It's not one I think, you know, we need to work on today, right now, but we do need to work on it as a denomination, that's for sure. So, is that the last slide? I think it is. Questions? I knew I'd buzz through this, but I wanted to make sure we all, and probably, like I said, the most important thing are those two questions, really, for us to think about in terms of what would Bill like to, what would you like to know? What would you like Bill to know about us? Maybe what questions you have for Bill.
What does he know so far?
What does he know so far? That's a great question. I would say he knows a lot because, and I'll say this on two fronts. When he came here, he was well prepared. He knew our website. He understood a little bit about how we worship. He must have been watching on Facebook or something because he understood who we were. He also made comments when we met with Presbytery about our team. He said that the team represented the congregation very well. And that to me was, you know, sort of a pat on my back, but you know, for me, it was encouraging. And he, you know what he also said, and I think that this is a sign of health in our church. He said, my biggest worry, Joe, is you're not going to need me for that long, that you're ready for another pastor. So I thought that was encouraging of the cohesive nature of, you know, and we spent time, right? These candidates for just the interim role, we spent an hour and a half Zoom call with each of them. I spent time on the phone with each of them. We spent time talking to all their references. We spent time, the Presbytery, Cheryl Galen had called their respective presbyteries to kind of get the download there. And when it came time for like an interview process, we did it over 2 days for each of them. So the night before we had dinner, sat down at the at Jim and Deb's house and just enjoyed dinner and conversation and, you know, what flowed from it. And the next day we met as a team with each candidate. We met with the Presbytery COM team, what they call the FIT committee, because I wanted everyone to leave that day, whether it was the pastoral candidate, our team, or Presbytery, knowing we, you know, that we had done our work, right? We had the information we needed to make a decision. And you know, honestly, I think it went very well, and I think he knows a lot about us because of the process too that we went through. That's a great question.
What are his strengths? 3 of them.
3 of them. So 1, he is a consummate interim. He has done this over and over and over again. He doesn't have a formula. He doesn't have a book that he goes by. He's got instincts, and he has done it very well. He is a teacher, probably over preacher, and I would put that as a high strength. And I would also say he's a relationship person from a standpoint of he sees as to give you an answer to one of his questions is when we asked him about pastoral care, he said, I see every interaction with every member of this church as being pastoral care. So I hope those are that's what comes on top of my mind. So good questions. Anyone else questions? We're out of time. We are. You're welcome. And thank you again, Sarah. This is great. Let's go out in prayer. I think that it's appropriate for us to just pause, take a moment, and say thanks. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity to come together, to listen, to learn about some of the hows of what we have to do around here when it comes to giving. Also to take some time and pause and think about where you're taking us and leading us in this next journey. We know that you already know, and it will be revealed. And in your name we pray. Amen.